Hi everyone, Lara Cupcake again. We're going to be making some acrylics today. So we'll go over first what you need to have in order to make this. So you want to get some type of clear cast acrylic resin. So like this is one brand, this is another. The resin kits are going to come with your actual clear resin, and then it's going to come with a hardener. And we'll go over in a minute how to mix them. You will also need a mold release agent, any type of spray. You can also use Vaseline depending on the mold. If you're going to dye them, you would need a dye. You can do transparent, you can do opaque, you can do gold leaf. There's all kinds that you can use. You also use powder dye. Need a mixing cup, and you need sticks for mixing. I use chopsticks, those work great. And then you need throwaway cups to actually mix it in, because anything you put this stuff on is going to harden and you're not going to be able to get it out, so it just needs to be something you can throw away. Solo cups work. Paper cups tend to leak through, but anything plastic. Then you're going to need your mold. So this is one I just picked up at a craft store for a couple dollars. Actually a soap mold. This is an actual acrylic resin design mold, and it's kind of flexible. So that's that one. And the other kind of mold you can do is you can actually do a silicone rubber mold. So basically with this one, I made a little piece out of clay. Once that's hardened, you can do actual mold, silicone mold over it, which I'll have another tutorial for that also. If you do the silicone molds, you want to do a bowl of uncooked rice and set it down in there like that. That way it will stay put when you actually do it. Also make sure you have lots of paper towels handy, because this stuff can get on everything. If it's your first couple times doing it, I definitely recommend wearing a grungy shirt you can throw away, because if you splash it on anything, it's not coming out of your clothes. So let me go ahead and get prepped and we'll start making them. Okay, and we're back. So now we're going to actually mix this. What you're going to do, you're going to do equal parts of the resin and equal parts of the hardener. You're going to pour the resin first, and then we'll pour the hardener. So first I'm going to do, I have a pink piece that I got to do, so we're going to do that one first. So it is kind of hard to determine how much exactly you need unless your mold actually has the weight in it. It has the ounces in it. So like with this one, I'm just going to do 1 ounce of each. I might have to mix more, but hopefully not. So get that filled up. Alright. So you can see there, we have 1 ounce of the resin. So we're going to go ahead and pour this into our little mixing cup here. You might have to hold it for a second because it does take a little bit to get it all out. It's very, very sticky, kind of like a syrup. So let's set this to the side. Next we're going to do our hardener. Do not shake these up or anything like that before you use them, because it creates bubbles. And bubbles are very bad. You do not want bubbles in your molds, because when you pour them in, that bubble will stay. So when you start mixing, you're going to mix it from anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes, depending, just to get everything out. You want it to be as smooth as possible. So we'll get this in here. Alright. And then you start mixing. This is what your chopsticks are for. The more you mix, the more you will start to see bubbles, but they do go away. And before you add your color in, you want to mix this completely first, so you make sure everything is dissolved together, and then we'll add our color in a moment. So you see there, very, very bubbly. But give me a few minutes and we'll be back and we'll add color. Alright, now we are mixed up, good to go, ready to add color. So for this one I'm making pink, so I have a transparent red resin dye. It doesn't take a whole lot to actually color these things. These are very potent. So I'm just going to use 2 drops for this. This is a 2 ounce mixture. I may have to add more, but let's see. It's actually pretty close. So for 2 ounces to get pink It's 2 drops. And then we're going to go ahead and pour this in just a moment. It's kind of hard to see, but there you go. So we got a good color. When you pour these, you want to pour them kind of high. And that way to get any extra air bubbles out. So I'm going to do the heart mold first. And you do want to fill it all the way up. It doesn't expand or anything like that. So you do want to fill it to, you know, whatever point you're making it. I'm going to make 2 of these. There's the second one. Okay. And then just slide that over. And then I have to make 2 of the small pieces for a little set of earrings I'm making for one of my cosplays. Doesn't take a whole lot for this one. Ooh. Okay. That one's spilled over. So paper towels, just wipe off the mold and stuff. Try not to get it on anything, because like I said earlier, it doesn't come off. Once it hardens, that's it. So you can wipe it while it's wet though and kind of get it off. So we'll do that. And also your piece will come out all wonky if it spills out of the mold. And you can take a Dremel, if that does happen, you can take a Dremel and go around the edges and stuff. And then sand it down with like a fine sandpaper, like a 220 grit. And that'll take care of any edges around it, but it's best not to just have them at all. Alright, so that one's done. Now I'm going to go ahead. I have to mix up some more resin so we can go ahead and make our other 2 molds, which are going to be purple. So I will be back in just a moment and we'll go over how long it takes to dry and everything. Alright, we are back. So now we're going to do the silicone rubber molds. You definitely want to use the mold release agent on this one. I didn't worry about it with these because I've done them 100 times and I don't use them on those, to be honest. It doesn't really make a lot of difference. With the silicone rubber ones, you definitely want to do it. So with this one, we're going to go ahead and spray it. Stuff kind of gets stuck sometimes. You have to squeeze it a bunch. And just shake it out. That way you don't have it sitting pooling in there. So it's good and coated now. So put that one back in the rice. Alright. Shake that one off. Okay. So that one's good and coated now too. I'm going to fix our rice here a little bit. Make sure it stays even. Just wedge it down in there. Alright. So these are good to go. And this is the purple color we have mixed up for our strong little gem piece here. Once again, hold it high up in the air. Whoop. Oh, that filled quick. Okay. Right. Leaking a little bit here. There we go. Okay. So those are all filled. I have a little left over, so I'm just going to make a couple more hearts. Because why not? So we'll fill these up. Never waste good resin. And I don't think I mentioned earlier, before you start filling your molds, it's always a good idea to wash it out with warm soap and water. Let it, and then dry it off. That way you just make sure there's nothing in there. And then you'll go ahead, if you need to use your mold release agent, spray your mold release agent and everything. And then just follow through. And as you can see, this is going to get thrown out now, as well as the chopstick. So make sure you use disposable stuff. Hello again. We're going to go ahead and check and see how our molds are curing. We're a couple hours in now, so give me 1 second here. Da-da-da! Alright, so here's the hearts, and you can see that they are curing very well. No bubbles or anything. Got our little gems, another gem, and the silicone mold. One thing about the silicone. Alright, day 2 for acrylic molds. Let's go over some do's and don'ts real quick, and then we'll go ahead and pop some of these out of the actual molds. So one really big important thing is do not use a heat gun or a hair dryer or anything like that to try and speed up the process. Heating the mold up and heating the acrylic up will actually cause it to bubble. So you're going to end up with a very foggy backside. You're going to end up with bubbles, and it can also, depending on the mold, melt it into the mold or you can't get it out. Another big thing is, with, like I stated earlier, the release agents. You can use the release agents. They're called mold conditioners, like the spray that I used in these. You can use these. They do cost a little more. Another option you can use, it sounds a little weird, you can use like Pam cooking spray, which you'll do is just spray it onto like a paper towel and just rub it inside the mold a little bit. Make sure it doesn't pool up. Same thing with the mold conditioner. Do not leave pools of it in there. Just lightly wipe it out so it's got a little bit of shine to it, and then pour your acrylic in. And another thing is, when you do these, if you push the mold out, or push the acrylic out of the mold before it's completely hardened, which, yes, I did this on purpose so you guys could see, you're going to end up with it looking like that. It's going to scratch, and it's going to have actual like fingerprints in it from where it's still squishy. And then once it hardens, you're stuck with it like that. So those are just some do's and don'ts. If you guys have questions, please feel free to send me messages, comment down below, or send on my Facebook. Now we'll go ahead and go over how to take these out of the molds. Yay! So we'll do the actual acrylic resin one first. So with these, easiest way to do these, because these are a little bit flexible because they're designed for acrylic, but what you're going to do is you're going to take this and you're just going to pop your finger behind it, go around all the sides and pop it out, and it will slide out. You are going to have edges around this, and you'll have to trim them, which we'll go over how to trim them too. That one, easy to come out. And this one was the one that I poured a little extra on the side, so it's got a lot more of an edge on it. So we'll just trim that down in a minute though. I took the heart molds for the most part out already. This is a lot harder plastic. This is a soap mold. Like I stated earlier, the soap molds don't really have any give to them like the acrylic molds do. So with these, I actually had to cut the mold apart and cut the individual hearts out so you could get a grip on it. And same thing, you just go around the edges, work it out. If I can get it out. Oh, there we go. Gotta tap it down sometimes. And it came out good. This one does have a little bit of bubbling in it. It was the very first mix I did. And you can see all the edges we'll have to trim down on that one. Alright, now we go the silicone mold. The silicone mold is a little bit trickier because you got to be careful not to bend the acrylic. Especially if you do this too soon, it's not completely hardened, you're going to end up bowing the acrylic. So what you're going to do is you're just going to press down on the sides and pull it apart. Especially, be careful with the corners. This one's pretty easy to get out because of the mold conditioner, though it did well. So there's our mold, and here's our little star piece. And so it's a little bit hazy, but I think it was more because of the mold itself. I'm going to end up having to remold this one, unfortunately. But for the first time with the silicone mold, it didn't come out too bad. So that's that. Let's go ahead and we will trim these now. For trimming, X-Acto knife if you have a steady hand, you're real good, or scissors for us fumbly people. And just go around the edges, try to trim it. Try not to cut into the acrylic because any little cuts or lines you're going to see show through the front. So just be real careful with that. Like with this piece, I'm going to have it setting on another piece of acrylic that I still have to make with this mold. So I'm not real worried about the edges because they're all going to kind of blend together. But if you have to have a real smooth edge, the X-Acto knife is the best way to get that smooth edge. So trim this up. See? Much better. And same thing with the little ones. The little ones, I'm going to use the X-Acto knife. And just go along the edge. and just trim. You do it a little bit at a time, it's a lot easier and it's a lot more accurate. If you can see, it's much cleaner. So that is the acrylic tutorial. Once again, if you guys have more questions, please feel free to comment below. Send me a Facebook message, facebook.com/laracupcakecosplay. You can also send me an email, which that link's below as well. If you guys want to see more tutorials or specific ones, please let me know. And keep watching me on Dave's Till Dragon Con, coming up with Word of the Nerd Online, Living for the Moments, and Shatter Stitch Cosplay. But as for now, that's it for me. Bye!